Hello everyone, I am the Helpful Witch and today we will discuss things that I've noticed in the latest gameplay revealed by many of the YouTubers around, as well as my thoughts on the game itself. Now, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe, especially if you would like to see more videos from me, as I am a small YouTuber and my videos will not get recommended to you as much as other big YouTubers. But now with that out of the way, let's jump straight into the video. Let's start with one of the first things I noticed that was not actually mentioned by anybody, but was actually mentioned by me last week in my latest YouTube short. Now, one of my theories that I discussed was that the two redhead boys that we've seen across the past trailers were actually going to be Weasley twins. And now we had actually the confirmation of one of the names of these two characters. His name is actually Lander Prewett. Now, I'm butchering this name, I'm aware of that, I'm sorry for it. But regardless, this is the name, actually the surname of Molly Weasley before she marries Arthur Weasley, of course. So we were definitely half right in that theory, saying that these would be Weasley twins, as this is definitely one of the Weasley ancestry, but we are not entirely sure actually about the name of the other person. So that is yet to be fully confirmed, but we were half right, so I will take that. And additionally, I'm calling this out now, but I want to add that we've actually seen before in the Dueling Club, one of the people that we defeated was actually called Hector Weasley. So who knows, maybe he's actually one of the twins that we've not seen, but regardless, we have now two ancestors confirmed for Hogwarts Legacy. I'm very interested to see which other familiar names we will encounter across Hogwarts Legacy. I think some interesting ones for sure would be the Malfoy, as they are also a very ancient family line, so I think that would be interesting to see. But we've seen this with other game titles such as Pokemon Legend Arceus, where most of the game characters, or at least the main characters, were actually ancestor to well-known and loved characters from the main series. So who knows who we will see from the modern times of Harry Potter during Hogwarts Legacy, but I think this would be a very cool little details that I'm sure they have already picked up on and have created characters for our well-known and beloved characters from Harry Potters, but we shall see who is actually in the game. Now, a small thing that I saw was called out by James from Expecto Go, but was not actually much really dwelt into detail, was that one of the students around the castle actually said, "Were you scared when the trolls attacked? I would have been terrified," towards our character. Now, James just called this out, saying that this made the castle really feel alive because the people were actually talking to us as well as we were passing through. But what I found interesting was that this actually confirms that there is going to be a trolls that attacked us probably in the dungeon, so we can have our troll in the dungeon. I thought you ought to know kind of moment, like we saw with Professor Quirrell, who knows, but definitely this was something that was not really explored or called out, so I think this was something that we can take as a hint of what the game beginning will actually show us. So I'm guessing we will defeat a troll at some point. Well, I guess that could also be, now thinking about it, it could very well be the troll that we see in Hogsmeade. So this could be a reference that the students are making towards the troll that we defeat in Hogsmeade, and definitely will make for a lovely callback to the beginning of the story. Now, another interesting and I want to say weird detail was actually that actually all of the people I've seen were locked in playing as a Gryffindor. Now, of course, we know that we will be able to choose whichever house we want, but I still found it interesting, as there is probably more than one reason why they wanted to make sure everyone had the same house. Of course, it's good that everybody is experiencing the same thing, as yes, this is a preview, but we're still a little bit away from the game releasing. However, I wonder if this is actually because there will be bigger difference throughout different playthroughs across different houses. Now, maybe it will just be a different dialogue. So they've shown, for example, one of the side quests with Poppy Sweetings, and maybe she will have a slightly different dialogue if you're from the same house. However, I wonder whether there is going to be even more, such as characters speaking around the castle in different ways across different playthroughs. I'm not entirely sure. I think that would be a bit excessive, but I definitely found interesting that they were all playing as Gryffindors. Who knows, we will see, I guess, in a couple of weeks, but I'm curious to know, what do you think is the reason that they made everybody play as Gryffindors? So leave that in the comments below and I will check it out, because I'm not entirely sure. I find it a bit weird, but yeah, there it is, another detail for you. Now, a couple of more interesting points that were pointed out was actually that swimming and climbing is in the game, as well as animaguses are in the game. We're not still entirely sure whether we would be able to turn into an animagus. However, we have actually seen one of the enemies become an animagus as we fight them. So it would be definitely weird if we have enemies that we fight and that have this ability and we are not able to do that. But this is a good thing because it kind of makes us think that this is definitely a mechanic that is in the game and that maybe we will get to explore it already in this game, and if not in this one, maybe in possible DLCs. So this is another thing that I noticed. So I'm definitely interested to see how this plays out and whether we'll be able to play as an animagus. My thoughts is that probably there will be a side quest at the end of the game that will teach us all how to become an animagus. However, I doubt that we'll be able to choose which animal we turn into, and I think it will be the same across all playthroughs, if this is in the game, of course. Now, another very small detail that I noticed was that many months ago we thought we noticed a green Welsh dragon behind the flying instructor in one of the gameplay reveal trailers. However, now we have actually seen more footage of this, and it looks like it's actually an enchanted edge, cut and shaped like a dragon, so it wouldn't be a real dragon. Now, this was in a slightly different location, I think, or I mean, it's difficult to actually say because I've not played the game, but I wonder whether this is actually the same edge or is in the same place, but it's shaped the same, it looks the same, it's the same color, so I'm guessing what we actually saw many months ago was this edge. However, we're still yet to see, I guess, but I doubt that there will be a dragon in the Hogwarts grounds, so it would definitely make sense that we will have this enchanted edge in the grounds at Hogwarts. Another interesting detail that I saw was that a couple of the playthroughs that managed to get to nighttime during their exploration of the castle did not seem to have anybody patrolling it around the evening or nighttime. This is interesting to me as, of course, during the Harry Potter books, we see that Harry is always stopped by somebody or needs to be careful because he needs to be sneaking around the castle because people are patrolling the castle and making sure that students are not out of bed. I understand that maybe they took this function out, especially for better gameplay experience, as people will be annoyed after a couple of times to have to really tiptoes around the castle at night, especially if you're coming back from doing a mission outside or enjoying some nighttime at Hogsmeade and you want to come back into the castle. I understand that it probably makes for a better experience to take that away. However, I would find it a bit weird if there would not be anybody patrolling the castle or actually any mini games or side mission where we need to be careful in when we explore the castle, as there will be actually people looking around and trying to stop us from maybe going to the restriction section or other similar things around the castle. I'm not entirely sure, but again, I find it a bit weird and strange to see our student being able to walk around and not be worried about being caught. Now that we've gone over some of the details I've noticed, I want to go over some of the opinions that I've seen people share, as well as some of my opinions about the game. I want to definitely start by saying that I'm so excited about the game coming out. I cannot believe it's less than 2 weeks away. I think this is incredible. It feels like a lifetime ago since we first seen the first reveal trailer, and it just feels, I don't know, mind-blowing that it's actually releasing so soon. I'm very, very excited for it, and of course seeing this footage made me very giddly and very excited. I was just really fangirling about every little details, and I'm just, I don't know, I couldn't really wait to get my hands on it. It just felt weird because I was like, please, not go this way, not go that way. I want to see what's behind that door, and I know that they had a lot of limitations, but it was just incredible to actually see more behind the castle and the students. I'm just so excited to play. I also really enjoyed the variety of the random events that we've seen around the castle. We have, of course, seen again the Peeves event that we saw in one of the gameplay showcase reveal, but actually we've seen many more, and many different ones, and I've actually not think that I come across the same one across different playthroughs apart from this Peeve event, which I wonder whether it was again scripted by the developers to make sure that everybody experienced it because they all had to pass across that corridor. But I found it very interesting to see this many variety of different events, and I hope that there will be many more that we can still explore by ourselves once we get our hands onto the game. And I don't know about you, so let me know in the comments, but I'm definitely most excited about exploring the castle in the game. Something that I found very interesting was actually that looking at through many reviews, both in Italian and in English, so I've definitely seen my fair share of videos about this, everybody said that they enjoyed the combat the most out of everything else into the game. Again, let me preface with the fact that of course they've only played a very limited part of the game and they only had 2 hours of gameplay, which was still very controlled and limited to the same missions and locations, but the biggest part of this was actually the mission with Poppy Sweetings. Therefore I understand that the combat was a big part of what they experienced, especially because they did the mission and also the dueling club, so definitely the combat was most of what they experienced apart from walking around the castle, but they didn't really get into any of the different lessons or any of the other different mechanics, so I understand. However, I still find it fascinating and a little bit worrying the fact that everybody said that the combat was their favorite part. I find it interesting because I wonder whether we've got a little bit more variety. It seems a bit weird that maybe 30 people that I saw, everybody said that the combat was their favorite part, because it makes me a bit worried about what else is it there for people that maybe do not enjoy combat as much. I'm definitely super excited to be able to cast spells, but I think there is a lot more of variety of casting spells that doesn't necessarily need to be into a combat environment, as well as the life at Hogwarts is definitely something that interests me. Brewing potions, herbology, flying, and so many other aspects that I'm a little bit worried at this point would be overshadowed about from the combat. Of course, again, they've only experienced a very limited amount of gameplay. They did not experience any brewing potion or herbology, but they did experience flying, for example, and although a lot of people loved it, a lot of people also said that the controls were a little bit weird. So again, I'm just a little bit worried that they spent so much on the combat that other things like that will make experiencing the world a little bit easier, like flying, might have been a little bit overlooked. But again, this is just my opinion without having played the game, so don't take this as, you know, the perfect correct opinion. I am just intrigued by the fact that everybody said that the combat was their favorite part of the game. And I say this as I've said before, that this is just because there is many games that are actually made to be combat driven. Think about Doom, God of War, Elden Ring, the Souls game. There is many different games that are just focused about the combat. So that's what I'm saying about if everybody thinks that the combat is the best bit, I don't think Hogwarts Legacy should be necessarily the game that you think about when you think about a combat game, or that a game where you just want to go and plow enemies. It shouldn't necessarily be Hogwarts Legacy. Again, in my opinion, this is a game that many fans have waited for many years. A lot of people are gonna start playing video games with this being their first video games ever, so I find it a bit interesting in the choice of driving with so much combat. But we will see once the game comes out, and I'll give you a bit more of my thoughts on this, of course. Now, another thing that James from Expectago mentioned was actually that a lot of the character models were similar or actually the same, and they were sitting also next to each other, which break the immersion a little bit. I also want to say that looking around the Hogwarts castle, I felt like some of the interaction of the NPCs were a little bit awkward, or their movements were a little bit awkward, and I just wanted to mention this as this is still a very good game in terms of graphics. You can see that especially in the cutscenes or in the main characters that you see interacting with, like Poppy or the guy that runs the dueling club. So you definitely see a lot of polish there, but you don't see it necessarily during the interactions between these NPCs without you. Of course, it will also be probably very difficult to run at the same standards, and everything usually tones down a little bit the graphics for interaction between NPCs. But I just wanted to mention that so that, you know, you also set your expectation, not thinking that you're going into this game that would be groundbreaking in terms of the graphics or, you know, something incredible. It's still, I think, going to be pretty much what we've experienced before. Definitely not the worst game I've ever seen, but also I don't think it's just innovative, I guess, on the graphics side of things. But this, again, not to say that it's bad. I've actually really enjoyed the environments. On the other hand, I thought the environments looked very detailed and very interesting and very polished. So again, I think, in all honesty, I'd rather have the environments more polished than the characters, especially as I'm not gonna stare at the characters all day, but I might stare about a library full of books all day trying to read all of the little titles on the book spine. So I'm definitely excited to see really the environments, and I think they really did a great job with that. Now, another thing that I think is worth to mention, especially for the people that are non-gamers or that are not really used to using a controller or playing games in general, I think something that, especially seeing the gameplays of the Potter Collector, which is another big Harry Potter YouTuber, I'm sure you've heard of him, but definitely you can see he had some difficulties with the controls from the broom, and even just walking around and getting up to some stairs, he really struggled. And I think this is something that you need to keep in mind if you're not a gamer in particular, or you're just not the biggest, especially fan of combat, or you struggle with the controls. I think this is something to keep in mind as you make your decision on whether to purchase or with difficulty to play Hogwarts Legacy on, because again, a lot of these people struggle. Even a couple of non-gamers, especially with the flight controls, struggled, and a lot of the people, although they said that it was their favorite part, actually did struggle with the combat in terms of there was just so much information that they had to take in, so many spells that they had to get adjusted. Again, this was a very limited experience where they all just started at a high level and tried to get accustomed with the combat. However, we would have had more time to get accustomed to the combat by the time we reached the same level that they were playing at. They were playing at level 19, which would definitely take a little bit of time to get to, so you wouldn't be starting the game and be so out of place. However, I think this is something to keep in mind, especially if you're wondering already what difficulty you're gonna start playing on. It may be that you actually decide to play on an easier difficulty, or that you decide to play on a normal difficulty and then tune it down for the combat. But again, they said that you can change your difficulty throughout the game, so don't worry too much about it, but just keep that in mind if you're a non-gamer. Now, last thing I want to mention is actually about the consequences of us using the unforgivable curses. I find this very interesting. Again, I've talked about it many times because I am in a way against using the dark curses. I don't really want to do it. I'll probably do it for the gameplay on YouTube. However, I think these need to have a certain weight. I think we've all grown up with the idea that these are unforgivable curses for a reason, therefore they should be a little bit more weight to them when we use them. And we've seen our character using Crucio across the playthrough, now with Poppy going around the poacher camp and Poppy not commenting on it even once. I find that a bit strange. Not even at the end of the combat, she wasn't like, oh my god, you use Crucio, maybe you shouldn't, or I'm just gonna stop talking to you because I am worried. I don't know. I find it very interesting that there is no mention from her. Nobody comments that a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, whatever it might be, goes around and uses Crucios against people. I just find it very weird. Again, I think there should be a little bit of consequences, and again, as I said plenty of times, this is a very limited view of the game that we have, so we can't really comment on whether this will have an impact. But I definitely find interesting that Poppy does not comment at all on us using Crucio right in front of her. So who knows, we will have to wait and see, but this is something that I think it would break a little bit the immersion for me if nobody comments about it, and just if we use it in a specific mission, that's when we have the consequences of it. I would feel a bit weird if that was the case. But yeah, these were my thoughts on the latest gameplay that we have seen popping out in the past couple of days. I'm very excited to get my hands on the game. I cannot wait, and I really want to know your thoughts on what you've seen, your thoughts on my video. Let me know in the comments below. I love speaking to you in the comments, so let me know. And also, please, if you enjoyed this video or if you've seen a couple of my videos already, please consider subscribing. I really appreciate it. I'm a small YouTuber. If you want to keep seeing my videos and my playthrough once the game comes out, definitely subscribe, as YouTube does not like recommending my video as I'm so small compared to some of these big YouTubers. So thank you so much if you subscribe. I really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next video. So thank you so much for reaching the end of another video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!